Well, right now, millions of Americans are wrapping up what was both their final vacation of 2025 and their first of 2026.
So let's take a moment to bridge those 2 years with a look back at 2025 travel trends and what's ahead this year. 2025 began in the worst way.
Crash. This is Alert 3. Crash.
America's first big commercial airline crash in decades. A Bombardier CRJ-700 flying for American Airlines, flying from Wichita, Kansas to Washington, D.C., collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter as the plane was preparing to land. All 64 people aboard the plane and 3 people aboard the helicopter died, calling into question whether an overall good recent safety record had lured America into complacency.
Are you kidding me? 67 people are dead.
Attention turned to other close calls in the same area and whether civilian and military aircraft there should be allowed to fly so close together in the first place. Airlines said some people seemed to avoid booking flights for a short time, but in the end, flying is still the safest way to travel, so people went back to doing it. But would they be able after May 7th? That was the question as the big Real ID deadline approached. For real this time, after all the stops and starts. We were there bright and early the first morning to see whatever happened. In the end,
I have my Real ID.
Most people were prepared, and for the few who weren't, TSA took a soft line on compliance. Extra screening in 2025 for people who didn't have the gold star, an extra $45 fee for people who don't have Real ID or other valid ID like a passport starting in February 2026. Someone managed to hack the public address system at a few U.S. airports, including Harrisburg International.
Hacked by cyberstorm.
A scary moment that turned out to be otherwise uneventful during what looks likely to have been a record travel year at HIA. Summertime hurricanes didn't disrupt many flights this year, but a 43-day fall government shutdown did. It ended before Thanksgiving, but not before some Americans made plans to drive rather than fly for the holiday. Among airlines, Spirit was never among the most loved by travelers, but for a long time it was among the most profitable. That changed. It filed for bankruptcy, reorganized, but then soon filed again.
They're still in bankruptcy. They're hanging on by a thread. They're struggling to either find a merger partner.
Perhaps Frontier Airlines, a possibility the two budget airlines have discussed in the past. American announced it'll stop giving frequent flyer miles for basic economy tickets, which are a lot like what budget airlines sell, while the biggest budget airline of them all, Southwest, began charging for bags and assigning seats, and is even thinking about lounges and first-class seats, which would make it more similar to premium airlines like Delta, which has been the world's most profitable airline in recent years. Airlines generally like higher airfares. Customers generally like lower airfares. But Jay Shabbat of Airline Weekly says there's one kind of environment when airlines and their customers can all be happy.
Is when fuel prices are cheap, because airlines love that. And then they can, if they're paying less for fuel, they can make money at lower fares. So they're going to, they're all very competitive. So they're going to compete. They're going to lower fares. Consumers are going to love that.
And sure enough, jet fuel prices were relatively low in 2025. Something else, though, that was down?
Travel to the United States was definitely much weaker than it was in the previous couple of years.
An airline like KLM from the Netherlands is a good example of why.
A lot of their business depends on moving people from places like India, Africa, the Middle East, to the United States through their Amsterdam hub airport. And they're seeing a lot less of that now.
Because of clampdowns on things like international student visas. Other people are allowed to visit America but aren't coming anyway to boycott American policies. Visitor numbers in Las Vegas are way down as Canadians have cut back, but not only because of that.
Used to be considered an inexpensive place. I can go to Las Vegas, get a package that includes everything. I can eat at a buffet that's relatively cheap. There's this fee and that fee. It just winds up being a much more expensive destination, I think people are finding.
Which means people will continue trying to find the latest travel bargains. And the ability to do that, in turn, comes down to something we mentioned briefly in that story, which is nearly impossible to predict. future global oil prices and thus jet fuel prices. Most airlines spend more money on fuel than they do on anything else and factor that expense into how much they fly and what they charge to fly. So if fuel is cheap for them, travel, Sarah, can be cheap for us.
Good to know, Seth. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eric Finkenbinder from ABC 27. We're excited to announce the new ABC 27 News Plus app. Live stream newscasts or watch content on demand. This is different than the ABC 27 app on your smartphone. You can check this out at home and it's very easy to use. With a Fire Stick, go to the homepage, scroll down to search. From there, enter ABC 27. Move over to the apps and there we are. Click the icon and install. It's just that easy.